I'd like to do this presentation as in kind of three different sections. First, a present vision, that where will we be in 2047, or where do we want to be in 2047, and how do we get there? And perhaps if there's time, speak a little about the democratic values and learning capacities that will enable this transition. I will dwell on the current context in the section that I deal with. How do we get there? Basically saying how do we change the current context and get to the futures that we want to see. Some of the stuff that we heard in the morning today about municipalities, about boundary conditions, are also reflected in this paper. So in some sense, I'm feeling a sense of belonging here, that we've heard some of these things in the morning today. What I want to emphasize is that the current ways of looking at knowledge as something that is of no use if it has no financial implication is something that must change, and I think will change in the near future. In the ways in which I'm speaking about knowledge futures, I'm kind of emphasizing a, let's say, decentralized knowledge system, an integrated knowledge system, integrated as in integrating different kinds of knowledge forms, S&T, that's a formal, organized scientific and technological research, universities, education systems, and so on, but also indigenous and traditional knowledge systems, local health and healing practices, a whole range of location-specific knowledge systems that we have, and the ideologies that come with them too, and a range of moral and ethical principles that enable inclusion of these kinds of knowledge principles. So in some sense, we're also not talking about the sciences speaking truth to power kind of argument. We're speaking about the sciences or the formal sciences as part of a system of knowledge for making sense together, of enabling a plural and, democratic engagement with the real world and problem interpretation and understandings for solutions. I want all of you to join me at the Independence Day celebrations in 2047. Yeah? Let's assume we are assembled in front of a municipal school in Koilon district in Kerala, and we're being addressed, or the address to the democracy is being delivered by the local municipal knowledge commissioner, the head of the municipal knowledge commissioner, a young woman, aged about 40 probably, and she's speaking to this, this municipal knowledge commissioners in Koilon are about 8,000 odd people in one district, not necessarily from the district, which is one of the points that Joy had in terms of the text that I gave you the first draft. And this is part of the speech that she is delivering to all of us in 2047. Yeah? She's talking about how we've reached, what is our knowledge system today, and this address to the democracy. Please note, it's not the address to the nation, it's address to the democracy. And she's speaking about how her own grandmother, who was the only one of 3 siblings who stayed home when the others migrated to the USA and Kuwait to join Kerala's biggest revenue stream, which is remittances, would not have believed that this kind of knowledge future would have been possible. That there are new norms, new rules, and that we have a municipal knowledge commission in every municipality in India. So she goes on to say that these municipal knowledge commissions, which employ thousands of people, is something that came as part of a study that was done between Indian and Chinese scholars, actually saw that Beijing had 17,000 municipal knowledge commissioners. Why didn't we have them? And what is happening in India? Why is our science system so organized and formalized within research organizations, the so-called Patnagar model of putting people inside boxes? And how do we change these? And these were knowledge commissioners who ensure decentralized and democratically deliberated integrated knowledge systems. And their mandate is to enable better understanding of local problems, enable research. They're allowed to recruit and employ all kinds of knowledge forms, locally available and internationally brought in, and to apply the knowledge for development outcomes, with norms of equality, justice, and harmony. And these are the three norms that she emphasizes again and again in her speech. So, direct democratic accountability is to the region, the people, and their ecosystems. If there is time, we'll talk about how some of these theoretical constructs come in. And I don't want to talk about the theoretical constructs now. This one, for instance, comes from William Karp's conceptualization of social costs, social and environmental costs, as being the costs, not just as externalities, but the cost of economic development as being one integrated whole of social and environmental costs. But if we have time, we'll get to that. Let's just go through her speech first. So she's talking about the outcomes evident in the municipality today as well-being and prosperity, not growth rates of economic value added, and that is what counts for our well-being today. And she's very proud of the knowledge system that we have today. Now she talks about other knowledge systems that we have, and other, let's say, forms of organizing knowledge that we have, which are the knowledge consortia, which she says are even more dynamic than municipal knowledge commissions, which are, well, let's say, employees or, let's say, affiliated with the municipalities. So not bound by the structural limitation of a municipality, our knowledge consortia have even been able to choose their own structures and norms of institutionalization. That is, how do we, well, institutionalize these knowledge systems, which will be very different depending on the kind of biophysical and socio-cultural knowledge or arrangements that are available in different districts. In different regions of the country. So these ensure deliberation, equal participation of all decisions made within the district. And these also are affiliated with or linked with other research organizations, indigenous knowledge systems, local metallurgists, biodiversity managers, and so on. The design flexibility of these knowledge consortia is something that she elaborates on, and the ways in which they can tie up with international advanced research programs, whether it's on neutrinos or high-end energy physics or something, and with local biodiversity programs. Linkages with various indigenous communities in the Andes Mountains or in Sub-Saharan Africa, Mongolia, and so on. There's a whole range of regional knowledge consortia that's available today, which are, well, employees from formal universities, from local indigenous practices, and so on. There's also a change in the ways of working of the financial system that enables this funding of this kind of research. She talks about a new currency that has replaced the US or the dollar-based currency exchange and pegs the international monetary system in terms set by the low-carbon development that is possible in the developing economies today. It's not 2047. So she paused briefly to dwell on the fact that some of these disciplines, for instance, developmental biology, which was considered dead at the turn of the century, with the advances of genetic engineering and nanotechnology, developmental biology would not have made the comeback it has made today in the 2040s if it weren't for the ways in which the institutionalization of science itself had changed with traditional practices, with a better understanding of interlinkages or systems understandings of problems. She talks about how India won the Nobel Prize for or physicists won the Nobel Prize for their work on biophysics of cell membranes, and how they included a philosopher who's working with them in their research citation, because the combination of the social and natural sciences was crucial for them to get their Nobel Prize. In terms of production systems, she talks about the flourishing rural industrial cores, the manufacturing and service enterprises that run entirely on renewable energy, with resource to waste tracking, recycling, and the ways in which different kinds of levels of knowledge systems operate, or knowledge generation and use, combinations of what Lyndon would call idle curiosity with pragmatism that work at different levels. Which she concludes saying that what we have today is unparalleled in the world, and this runs on 5 essential principles. This kind of organization of knowledge runs on 5 essential principles of decentralization, authentic democracy, integration, not just of natural and social sciences, but integration of a range of knowledge systems available in each location, equality, that is exchange of knowledge and goods and services based on principles of reciprocity and redistribution, not on principles of let's say, monetary value, different qualities of justice and harmony. So she talks about these 5 principles. In the conclusion, she kind of emphasizes that the ways in which the global ecosystems of knowledge have changed with open source systems, user-friendly software, and property rights, what we call IPR today, has become history. She talks about how these things have changed since the 1920s, and which has been a global context in which these have developed in India. Now, the drivers of change that she talks about, once her speech is finished, we look back on how we got here. How did we get here? In the 2015-16 phase, India has been confronted with several drivers of change. One is a question of shame, ranging from questions of gender and nutrition levels to a whole range of questions about the environment, urbanization and inequality. Questions of frustration within the urban middle class, but also an extremely frustrated academia. Aspirations, not just of the middle class, but also of a large working class with aspirations for good education, good health care, and sustainable living environments. The fourth driver is lessons from failures. I'm not listing the failures here, but there's plenty that all of us are very familiar about, or familiar with, and have worked on, perhaps each one of us. The fifth driver is mistrust of the state and the corporate sector, especially their inability to respond to crisis and repeated crises that seem to have, all of them have a uniform pattern of what is expected, we know that it's coming, and when it happens, nobody does anything. Or there is a very, very, very marginal kind of response, rather indifference. The sixth driver is the organic deliberative forums that happen in the small towns. And small towns where there is a relationship, an active organic relationship between academia and local civil society organizations, especially civil society organizations who are not tied to the apron strings of central bureaucrats, bureaucrats of the union government. So there is an organic movement within small towns that they enable this change, including changes that come from local theatre and local books that are published within the country. Proactive media and integrated policy analysis capacities is the seventh driver, and the last driver is an increasing convergence between the formal sciences and the civic space, especially at the state level. The state science councils being a central driver, something that had started in the 1970s and 80s but really didn't take off and is still under the umbrella of the DST. So these things are the major drivers of change. There are a few theoretical and conceptual things that lead to this too. We can talk about that if we have the time. I've been getting instructions from the stop. Thank you very much.
राजेश्वरी जी के पर्चे में जो इनहेरेंट होप है उसके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कहूँ तो I would say that this was music to my ears. But if I judge it from the viewpoint of what Asim said, we are not in a phase of crisis, we are nearing collapse. Then I would say that it lacks sense of urgency. And why the direction you provided, the speech you made in 2047, why it couldn't have been made yesterday, that would be my question. And I think I have campaigned for Nitish's alliance in Bihar, and if I see the situation in the villages, the energy Dalit women possess, the energy the Sahus, the Panya castes who are halwais traditionally, the cooking science, actual existing cooking science they have, the herbal practitioners which are documented in a classic text called Nighantu, which also has cooking science, which explains the linkages between health science, cooking and the weathers all together. They are the living knowledge on the ground. And the moment you talk among the Gandhians, among the socialists, among the Marxists are the most fundamentalist of them all. They are not able to even listen, or even the liberals. And the more internationally connected you are, more literate you are, the more genetically, almost genetically, you become incapable of listening and seeing what exists on the ground in terms of knowledge system. So why can't these knowledge systems, wherever the leadership of OBC and Dalits have come through identity ATM card, they will not listen. But people like Nitish Kumar, who have come through a political process, or Siddaramaiah, or Kerala, both the communists and socialists, both the communists and Congress will listen, because Kerala communists, KSSP, to their credit, just look at the Parmeshwaran's writing on science and ecology. He says Gandhian socialism is the only answer and is the only possibility. So there are vast grounds of political practice happening on the ground. It's not just Ilango's, with due respect to Ilango. Ilango is giving it modern respectability. And if we could incorporate the modern respectability and the traditional living practices with the political process, without contemporary, linking it without contemporary political process, the way using JNU, this corporate fascism is succeeding on the ground. Just look, go to Munirka, go to Bersarai, go, and the way people are, who were hitherto liberals and who were hitherto not RSS, the way they are thinking of JNU and nationalism and patriotism, it's frightening. So unless we and I don't think in my political assessment we cannot directly confront this unless we open so many fronts against corporate fascism, and having our continuity from yesterday. It can't be futuristic in 2047. That would be my so I just catalog some of the issues which concretely can be done today or yesterday. Cooking science, customized food and health linkages, water engineers in the rural areas, soil scientists, the Koiris, the Methos, how to grow flowers and how to go which vegetable where and all that. Weather science, they know much more than our Indian meteorological. Andaman Nicobar and tsunami is one example of that. Various engineering skills, civil, bamboo, health services, Ayurveda, Siddha, bone setters, midwives, etc. So these are the living practices. We need political legitimacy, we need policy packages, and we need to protect the market, not give them macro global market like China has given to its, it captures 54% of the global market of herbal export. We should not get into that. Let Ramdev do his part in a personalized fashion. But we do Swadeshi on the ground, and this is possible.
I am a teacher at one of these elite institutions, which is IIT Delhi, and I wanted to ask about 2 or 3 aspects of technology, because the IITs have been enclosed institutions, and now we see a change. I would like to talk about that briefly. My question is that all change takes place within a historical context, and today we see that imagining our futures, our mythic futures, is also linked to imagining our mythic past. And so IITs, for example, are fairly receptive to the idea that in the past we had everything, we had aeroplanes, we had something. They do not reject this idea. They think that it is an important part of continuity, and this is something which reflects the naivety of the institutional context, where if you ask a IIT graduate, why do you really think we could have had flying objects in the ancient past? They will say, why not? And that is an important question, because this group also sees itself as very elite. And yet they have very naive political ideas about how we imagine our future and how we link it to our past. The second thing is the humanizing of technology, which was meant to be critical in these systems. What has happened is it's been achieved by general devices like the cell phone and the so on and so forth. So there is a politicization of these enclosed spaces taking place. My question is that it is a very under-imagined politicization. It is, so for example, this time, recently, three IITs have written in support of what's happened in JNU. This is very unusual because there is no political structure within the IITs, no unions, no political debate, and yet, because of these intervention of the new technologies, there has been an awareness that you ought to intervene in public sphere debates. What I'm saying is that even institutions which are inherently conservative are undergoing change, but in ways that we do not really understand. I would like some discussion around these sorts of questions, because we are talking about very young people who were born in the 1990s and so on. And we need to understand that they are very much serfs in many ways, and the onus is not, the onus is from the political sphere, the public sphere, to educate the IITs, and I wonder how that could be done. Sorry.
People in 2047 is speaking in her own language, or is she speaking in English?
Yeah, I thought of that.
That's important.
And to that point, I want you to address this strong opinion which has been expressed by a lot of people, including Kali and Lohia, that the lack of perception and the lack of the ability to comprehend something in your own language, and the absence of your own language from your day-to-day survival and progress in life ultimately leads to a certain sense of roughly inferiority complex, and that leads to open receptivity towards anything and everything which is handed out to you, in this case by the West or by the power elite or by whoever. And
we talking the same thing when we say science, or there are also different ways of understanding science? I mean, indigenous knowledge, for instance, has been said, and modern technology, but are they following the same method in some senses, or are there also differences in method?
हमारे यहाँ एक कहावत है, वो घर का जोगी जोगना राम गाँव का सूत्र वाली बात है।
बाहर का जोगी से।
हाँ, बाहर का जोगी। असल में बात ये है कि हम लोग खुद देखिए, गांव शहर, छोटे शहर बन रहे हैं, कस्बे बड़े शहर बन रहे हैं। हम देखते हैं कि जो हमारा एक छोटा कस्बा है चंबा है, चंबा के लोग देहरादून आ रहे हैं, देहरादून के लोग दिल्ली आ रहे हैं, दिल्ली के लोग बाहर जा रहे हैं, देश में। तो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि आज अगर सच्चाई से अगर देखें तो हमारी कितनी बोलियां गायब हो गई हैं, हमारा खान पान किस तरह से गायब हो रहा है, और हमारी भाषा किस तरह अभी देखिए हमारा जो चल रहा है कि हमारी भाषा का ही तो है, हम किसके लिए काम करना चाहते हैं, ये देखिए ना। तो ये एक अहम सवाल है कि हमारा जो पारंपरिक ज्ञान, जिस ज्ञान की हम बात कर रहे हैं, वो ज्ञान हम लोग खुद खत्म कर रहे हैं, हम लोग भी इसमें साझेदार हैं। आज का जो विकास है, आप बात हो रही थी, अभी खेती की बात हो रही है, अब जब जमीन नहीं होगी तो हम खाएंगे क्या? पैसा तो नहीं खाएंगे, पैसा शहर में मिल रहा है लेकिन पैसा तो नहीं खाएंगे। तो एक जरूरत ये है कि इस ज्ञान को कल को जरूरत पड़ेगी हमें, ये निश्चित तौर पर है कि आपका जो आधुनिक ज्ञान है ये ज्यादा टिकने वाला नहीं है, एक दिन फेल होने वाला है। आपके कोई भी बीज जो है, आज तक एक भी यूनिवर्सिटी ने ऐसा बीज नहीं बनाया जो आपके 4 सूखे का सामना कर सके। लेकिन लोग किसानों के पास ऐसे बीज हैं रखे रहते हैं कि जो सूखे के टाइम पर उनके काम आते हैं, सूखे के जो अतिवृष्टि में लोग उनके काम आते हैं। तो आज जरूरत इस बात की है जो हमारा पारंपरिक ज्ञान है, इंडिजिनस नॉलेज की जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, वो ज्ञान मर रहा है, उस ज्ञान को हम किस तरह जिंदा रखें। आप ही देखिए, एक जब बच्चों पर ये क्या कहते हैं फुंसी होती है, कई क्या कहते हैं एलर्जी हो जाती है, तो एलर्जी का आपके पास कोई ऐसा एलोपैथी में ऐसा इलाज नहीं कि तुरंत हो जाए, लेकिन गांव की महिला जाती है, वो पत्ता तोड़ के लाती है, किसी को नहीं बताती हो, हरा पत्ता तोड़ के लगाएगी, हाथ से मल के उसको लगाएगी और बिल्कुल ठीक हो जाता है। जिसको मकड़ा कहते हैं, एक मकड़ा कहते हैं कि मकड़ी किसी के जल को मकड़ी का भी उसमें होता है। तो ऐसी ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें देश भर में आदिवासियों में इसमें, लेकिन जरूरत इस बात की है हम उसको कितनी मान्यता दे रहे हैं। इस किताब में जो आएगी बात, तो उस किताब में उन महिलाओं का ज्ञान जो आज भी अब किसी डॉक्टर के पास नहीं जाती है और अपने खाने के लिए, अब आप छोटी सी बात है, पथरी कभी पथरी नहीं होगा, पथरी का रोग कभी नहीं होता है अगर आप गहर जो हस्त ग्रह में उसकी दाल लेते रहिए, कभी पथरी का रोग नहीं होगा। और अगर पथरी का रोग है, लोग जानते हैं गांव के लोग कि पथरी का रोग है, तो 1 महीने तक आप गहर का या हस्त ग्रह का सूप पीजिए, वो बिल्कुल ठीक हो जाता है, 100% है, वो टूट के पथरी निकल जाती है। तो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, हमें इसमें ऐड करने की जरूरत है। धन्यवाद।
Movements may maybe just it should be either or. If you are thinking of a movement, it cannot be this can also be and that can also be.
नहीं आइदर और की जरूरत नहीं है कि आप अपनी रियलिटी में रूट हो जाइए। देयर इज नो आइदर और, देयर आर पीपल सर्वाइविंग एंड दे यूज ऑल दीज मॉडर्न गैजेट्स वेयरएवर दे नेसेसरी। गांधी ने इस सवाल को कन्फ्रंट किया और इस पर पोजीशंस ली हैं। पीपल डू इट एवरी डे।
I appreciate these passionate discussions, but I think we'll have to also give time to the office to respond after this last question.
Just a quick one which kind of builds on a number of what people have said, which is also the erasure of oral knowledge. Because even what's happening with traditional knowledge is that more and more we're getting into this argument of let us document traditional knowledge so that we can keep it alive. Now maybe that's an important thing to do, but in the process what we are doing is to say that even the traditional knowledge which is oral gets marginalized.
Yeah.
So future vision में उसके बारे में क्या है? हमारे जो मौखिक knowledge and such a creative, alive institution and still is in many places, including what Vijay is saying. How does that build into the vision for both of you?
कम्युनिटी डिस्ट्रॉय कर दीजिए, ओरल नॉलेज कैसे बचेगा भाई?
मैंने लोगों को पहाड़ में ढोल बजा दिया, कोई विद्या वैसे नहीं है, लेकिन ढोल बजाना एक कला नहीं, ये विज्ञान है। आप यहाँ ढोल बजा रहे हैं, एक विज्ञान के तरीका, वहाँ अगर वही ढोल बजाए यहीं से ढोल तोड़ सकते हैं, तुम तोड़ सकते हैं।
I kind of agree with you that there is a lot of local knowledge, and the paper does talk about it, and ranging from barefoot engineers to Tech Development Society, to several examples. Jennifer Liang and the Polo Weavers, and I've specified several examples, the Kalpavriksh that's actually happening. So there is a whole range of evidence in the paper that I've tried to at least put in some in the text, some in the footnotes. But what I want to say is that in the drivers of change section, I talk about why is it that these alternatives have not really taken root, and what is it that pushes them to again, not as standalone items, as let's say the Halwai's knowledge, but as an integration of local knowledge with formal sciences, with education systems that will teach these to local practitioners, and so on. That's the answer to your question. These are municipal knowledge commissioners who are all of them speaking Malayalam and that. So, hopefully there will be a respect for all languages and not just a Hindi imposed on all of us or English imposed on all of us. So there is an engagement, an active engagement of these systems that the paper talks about. But coming back to some examples that I've myself worked on, integrated pest management or soil moisture management, the reasons why these don't take root, despite immense knowledge, like Jagaraji was saying about local pests or local herbs or something, is because of well, let's say a highly centralized and again highly subsidized a formal system that is being imposed on these local knowledge systems, which are absolutely essential for survival, not just for let's say capital or growth or anything of that sort, but survival of a whole range of communities, local ecosystems, food production and so on. The reason is that there is a particular imagination of the labor capital ratio that is being embedded in all these knowledge systems, and we have to change that. And that in some sense answers Sharad's question also. I mean that if we assume that communication is possible only through laptops and computers or mobile phones and other forms of communication, whether it's oral traditions or local crafts or local music or whatever, and if we don't give, in some sense, equal weightage to these, and say that if our ability to communicate with our own neighbors, and I open my door and I don't know who is living next door, because that's a condition that most of us face now, if we change those kinds of communication patterns, if we bring in a certain, let's say, these values that this woman talks about, equality, justice, and harmony as the basic values of organized sciences and the local knowledge systems that have to be integrated with them. Again, the drivers of change section also talks about painful decisions. Some central research councils in this paper disappears. All decentralized research councils, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, ICR, ICMR, they all disappear. There will be regional consortia of knowledge systems or programs that will lead to certain development outcomes, again set by people and democratic processes. It is painful, and I also mentioned the starting point is 2015-16, so it's starting now. It's not starting in 2040s. So if we start now, there is hope to achieve something of this sort by 2040s. If we don't start now, then we're losing a big battle. And again, it's not just a question of how we link these, it's also a question of where our understanding of our past intellectual contributions come from. I've used Veblen and Gramsci's concept of organic intellectuals, of the ways in which they engage with not just as let's say the ways in which we imagine our academia or intelligentsia in IITs, for instance, not that, but as people who have immense respect for matter-of-fact universal truths that science brings to us, but also understand the social construction of science and technology, are restive about political decisions, legitimized exclusively by science. So there are people who are questioning these and engaging with local knowledge systems. So these are the kind of intellectuals we hope we will see if we start building them right now. The location of these changes, in my vision, I see them happening in small towns where civil society actors or movements and local academic actors have active engagement, again, with local production systems and local knowledge. And without that, it definitely is not going to happen in Delhi. That's my feeling. So there are lots of other small towns where there are several examples that are happening. In terms of Mani's question also, this Gramscian organic intellectual is the ways in which the integration will happen. I think there's another question, this question about language. Indigenous knowledge will get wiped out? Well, I don't think so, because there are several ways in which, a lot of indigenous knowledge systems are coming back and their values being recognized. It's just that somehow we are accustomed to the so-called formal scientific research system, organized and structured in a particular way, universities for a particular kind of knowledge. When we don't see the active engagement, again, pedagogy is a major thing that will change, the ways in which we teach and learn. And so I've dealt a little bit on that, not enough, but yes, we need to actually ask some of these questions if we really need to see a different kind of knowledge system. The best thing about India is that this is a place where a lot of these things can happen. And a lot of, our states, for instance, 11 states in this country have organic agriculture policies passed through their state cabinets. These are states that do not have agriculture policies passed through their state cabinets. Yeah? So what is it about organic agriculture that their political well, their own political parties are recognizing as important, and their own bureaucrats are saying, go ahead and do this, yeah? So there are tiny bits of evidence available across various universities and states in this country. I've mentioned some of them, a few that I know personally or have worked with, but there are many, many, many more. So, I mean, it's not just a question of where we start, but how we go through also that I've listed here. I hope I get more comments on this paper, but I've also referred to some of these changing labor capital ratios as very important to the ways in which we do science and the ways in which we engage with local production systems as bioeconomic models that are equitable and sustainable. So how do we get there is a long process. Hopefully we will start somewhere.